Hello and welcome to the Keep It Local Maine podcast, where we tell the stories of local business owners and Maine residents and learn more about what they do, who and what inspires them, their challenges, successes, and more.
My name is Kimberly Rigolinski.
And I'm Todd Rigolinski.
And we are the publishers of Keep It Local Maine, a local magazine that helps to showcase local businesses to the people in and around their communities. Thank you for tuning in to our weekly podcast that you can subscribe to on Podbean, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can learn more about us at keepitlocalmaine.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram through the links in the show notes. In this episode, we'll be talking to Gregin from Bueno Loco Mexican Restaurant in Falmouth.
Gregin and Jerermy are a sister-brother team that bought Bueno Loco in the spring of 2020. After working part-time at the restaurant as their fun job, they heard that the owner was looking to retire. Believing that Bueno Loco had too much potential to close, and they decided to buy it and breathe new life and energy into it, while also preserving some of its origins.
Welcome to the show, Gregin.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. We're so glad that you're here with us today.
Yes, indeed.
So tell us, we're excited to hear about this. So tell us about how you came to be the owner of Bueno Loco in Falmouth.
So my roommate had been working there for years as the primary bartender. And I, was in the middle of a long career in the mental health field. And he would come home and say, geez, you should come work at Bueno. It'd be a lot of fun. Just do it 1 or 2 days a week. Mm-hmm. And I, would get home at 4:00 every day and have kind of nothing to do. My kids are all grown. So I started doing that. And it was just like 1 or 2 evenings a week. And I enjoyed it. I did it in college and, kind of fell back into the swing of things and had a lot of fun. And my brother, who just lives 2 miles down the road, sort of got intrigued, and we've always been very close. And I said, well, why don't you get a job there too? And let's have a sibling night. Let's just make it like a fun brother and sister show. And we did. Yeah, it was fun.
That's
so
great.
We did that on Wednesdays. And he was the bartender and I was the waitress. And so we really enjoyed that experience, and we were having a lot of fun, and, friends and family would come in to see us, and we kind of got a kick out of it. And the owner at the time was spending a lot of her time in Florida. So you can imagine how hard it is to run a restaurant from 2,000 miles away. And we had heard that she was approaching the point where she was interested in retiring. Her youngest was graduating high school, and I think that was her plan all along. Was to kind of be done with the restaurant around that same time. So we, kind of looked at each other and thought, wouldn't it be cool if, we bought it? Because we thought it had a lot of potential. And I think she was kind of done, psychologically, or looking to be done. And so we thought this place could really be something special. And I had remembered years prior reading an article in Fortune 500, which I don't generally read, but I think I was like waiting for an appointment. And so I read this article, and it interviewed like 500 very successful people, and it tried to find the common denominator and what it was that made all of them successful and on this list of millionaires or whatever it was. And the one thing that came across from that article is that it wasn't, whether you had money or were born with money, it wasn't your background or the color of your skin or opportunity. It came down to one factor, and that every one of them took a calculated risk. And that always really stuck with me, because it told me that success really is accessible and available to everybody. But what makes a big difference is how you look at that risk and how you kind of make it your own. So anyway, we thought, geez, we have no experience in hardly working in a restaurant, much less owning one. But I did think that between my brother and I, combined, we have 50 years of business and life experience. And we thought, how hard could it be? And so, like all good stories, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
Right? Buy a restaurant, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Wow.
And so we started talking with the owner and just said, hey, we heard that you are looking to perhaps retire, and we would not mind having a conversation with you about this because we may be interested. And she, liked us and said, sure, let's talk. And that was back in November of 2019. And so we started, throwing mud at the idea, and we started working with SCORE in Portland, which I can't say enough about. They were just an invaluable resource, and we were given a wonderful mentor, Chris Weber, who is in the industry of food and service and hospitality, and she was a fantastic fit for us. And
nice.
Yeah, we just thought, okay, we just kept going down the path, not really sure if we were going to pull the trigger, but we decided that we really wanted to go for it. And the process of going for it really galvanized us and energized us. And so that happened. And then, of course, we started hearing chatter about this thing called COVID on the West Coast. And that was in February. And then, it was kind of barreling down the pike, heading east. And we just kept going through with the process. And we thought, okay, the COVID will be a thing, but it won't be a forever thing. We thought, okay, we go through a couple of months of it being challenging, but it'll give us time to kind of rebrand the restaurant and give us a chance to, learn the things that we need to learn, or at least start the process of learning the things. And of course, as we all know, COVID, had its own agenda and has stayed far longer than any of us would have preferred. And so here we are, having to kind of ride out this time and try and keep this thing afloat. And we continue to do that. There's been some real silver linings in this for us, and there's been some real fears. But the bottom line is that we don't know anything other than starting and running a business during COVID. So it's where we see a lot of our fellow industry folks reacting in different ways than perhaps we are, because it's the only thing we know. And I'm not saying that's made it easier. It's just made it different.
Yeah. Wow.
What is it about the process? Because you said the process kind of galvanized you and your brother. What is it about the process that was kind of exciting, or that was part of that galvanizing? I
think with anything that you want to see be successful, there has to be a dream behind it that propels it forward. So people talk about vision boards. You do things in life because of outcomes, and of course, for most of us, it's true that we probably only look at, the rainbows and the positives and all the bright sides, of all the things. And I really still, and I'll say we, for Jeremy and I, my brother, we still see those bright things. I think everything is in place for us to be successful. We're just in a holding pattern. But, we're 8 months into this, and I'm still struggling to understand profit and loss statements. I still find the bookkeeping process to be just so perplexing. And it still takes, my breath away when I get a CMP bill every month that's $2,000. Because, when you live, at home simply, you expect a $90 CMP bill, but, so yeah. That's a little off topic, but it's a real shift, when you're dealing with something that's so fluent. And it's an interesting challenge for my personality type, because I am one of these people that, I like to clean because I can stand back and say, aha, that task is completed, and I check it off my list, and it satisfies me to have something done. And then you move on to the next project. And with this restaurant, it's never done. And there's never anything that's truly crossed off the list, because if there is, there's something that comes up right behind it and replaces it. So I find that kind of energizing to learn and study the things that we don't know. It's been a tough mix of having to work at the restaurant. Obviously, we're trying to, save costs and watch payroll and that kind of stuff. So we do a lot of the work ourselves. And it's a big restaurant. It's 4,100 square feet. It's not small. So everything that we've had to do just feels a lot harder. Like payroll, I've never done payroll for 24 employees. So that takes time. Just the insurances, all the things to run a business has just been slower for us because they're all new experiences. So I think that also kind of energizes us to do the best we can do so that we can move on to the next task. But it is just astounding that it just, you just never really get anything done. It's just,
You're learning a lot, it sounds like. It sounds like you guys are constantly in that learning process, though, which is going to be gratifying in some level, too, just all the different things that you're learning.
Oh, absolutely. And the things that you didn't expect, to know how to learn, and the little things that go wrong, and, managing problems versus people. And then, of course, the marketing piece in all of this. I would say I had very little marketing experience prior to this. And now I feel like I am marketing 5 times a day and learning how to be creative and learning how to use all this, these platforms that enable you to create good looking marketing content. And it's a really tough thing to try and drive people to your business while at the same time being responsible about COVID and not trying to encourage people to gather in groups and to sit together at a table, but at the same time, you have to have people in your doors to support your business. So it's a fine line that I find we're always walking, where we want to encourage people, like, come, we can make this safe, we can make this reasonable, we can follow the rules, we do follow the rules. And that really worked well for us. That was a successful model for the first, 6 months. And now, for the month of November, as we face these spikes and just the natural downturn in the industry in November anyway, that's always classically true. And now I find myself, okay, what can I do in social media to keep us on people's radar and keep us in their vision, but not encourage, people to come flooding in the doors. It's almost like asking for too much business is a double-edged sword these days, which I think is a new experience for a lot of business owners, where you want people, but you don't want too many people,
Right.
Yeah.
So having to scramble to come up with unique ways to kind of keep people interested, to keep people engaged, to get them to order a gift card instead of walking in the door, or to do delivery or takeout, and that was never a big part of our bottom line to begin with. So there's a lot of scrambling to anticipate what you need and what you don't need. But we have a lot of fun. I think one of the things I like best about this experience is that we are really taking all the advice, of course, and we're following, all the recommendations that the experts that, we kind of have circled our wagon to help us. We do all those things, but we also are kind of unconventional, and we have a lot of fun, and we've had really good consumer feedback about that. You kind of never totally know what you're going to get when you come into Bueno Loco. And I say that with a big smile on my face. And that has a lot to do with, like, the atmosphere. I mean, the food is always consistent, of course, and the rules are consistent, but the energy can be variable. And I kind of like that. We had a patio full of people one day, and it was beautiful out. And then the dark clouds came and the thunder started to rumble. And my brother stood out in the middle of the patio, and he said, "Hey, folks, I think we're about to get hit with a downpour. Feel free to grab your plates, come inside. We have tons of socially distanced seating, so find a spot. We'll find you. Let's just do this together." And sure enough, the gods opened and the floods came down and people grabbed their plates and their margaritas and everybody ran inside. And then my brother kind of disappeared for a minute. And then all of a sudden, over the PA system in the whole restaurant, he put on Riders on the Storm, by the doors.
I love it.
And he played it kind of loud. And the whole restaurant just started cracking up and people were applauding, and it was just a really fun moment. And it was this, one of those little examples of silver linings in all things. And people were just delighted by that, little unexpected thing, that happened. And that's not what you'd expect to see in a restaurant. Like, things are usually, I find most restaurants build themselves on consistency. You want the same thing every time. You want to expect the same food, the same service, the same results. That's why, McDonald's does so well, because it's consistently the same thing every time. And that absolutely is a working model, but it hasn't 100% been our model. And that's been a delightful surprise, seeing that customers kind of like that,
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of an adventure when you go to Bueno Loco.
So something that you said a little bit earlier about your personality and the fact that you like to clean because you can see the things getting done in front of you. I just want to let you know, and all the listeners know, that I looked over at Kim and I had a big smile on my face, because I feel seen. That's my personality type, and it is most definitely not Kim's personality type. And that's great, like, because it's that balance. Do you find, is that a similar dynamic with you and your brother? Like, you have this type of personality and he has another type of personality that balances? And if not, how do you find that balance within that business?
So, interesting question. The good news is that Jeremy and I both are cleaners. Our parents were good at it and they taught us how to do it. And, we are both people that really care a lot about ambiance. So besides it being clean, we really like lighting to be a certain way. We fill the restaurant every night, even if there's 2 people in it, there's candles, we have little oil candles, and because it just looks nice. And I think if it looks nice, it feels nice and it adds to the experience. So Jeremy, is almost more of a cleaner than I am. And he would kind of start going a little bit nuts about cleaning. And we had to have a conversation about, Jeremy, you're spending too much energy and you're burning too many calories doing this job, because tomorrow we're going to have to do it all over again. And we kind of had to use the analogy like, Jeremy, I think we have to look at this restaurant like this is a stage, and we're putting on a performance every night, a dining experience, specials on the menu, whatever it might be. This is theatrical in some ways. And so you have to look at it from the customer or the guest point of view. And if they come in and it looks clean and it feels clean and it is clean and it's low lighting and great music and it feels good, we've done our jobs, But he'll say, but I didn't get to the windows today. And I'm saying to him, I don't think they're going to notice. We can do it tomorrow. I think they care more that their menus are squeaky clean and that the tables are, spotless. And, I really think it's going to be okay. But that's a change, because when you have such a big space like you do in a restaurant, you kill yourself, trying to do everything every day. So he's also very old school. We grew up children of the 70s and 80s where there just wasn't a lot of regulation. And of course, we enjoyed those perks of having less regulation. I remember having a fake ID at age 16 and nobody batted an eye,
Or how about that third row seat in the station wagon that was facing backwards? No seatbelts anywhere to be found.
None. Right. Exactly. Put sock poppets out the back window. We did all
the
that
back
stuff.
window that rolled down and that,
Death trap.
Yep.
All the exhaust pouring in. Oh yeah.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And I think when you grow up like that, you carry with you a little bit of lawlessness, like rules or suggestions,
Just a fatalistic sense of life.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm probably going to be propelled out the back window of this station wagon at some point.
Exactly.
I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to have dessert first tonight.
Right. Exactly.
It's good stuff.
But, you find that you have to set examples for people around you. And, those examples should be set in stone. I mean, we should have a set of standards around behavior, like any place probably should. And, I find for us, sometimes if COVID is hit particularly hard and we've had a tough week, we will try and elevate and lighten the mood by being a little sillier than what people might expect of us, or we'll play that music a little bit louder. And that, that's kind of tough, because we're both, middle-aged, and that's been a model that's worked well for us. But now you question whether, can we actually do this? And generally we find we've gotten thumbs up. You know what I mean? I don't want to get off topic, but I'm not sure I totally answered your question.
No,
that was great.
I think it's interesting, because I think in some ways, for our business, I think we each have a respective area of turf, and that there's balance in that. Whereas it seems like you and your brother have similar personalities, and you've found a way to balance kind of both for yourself and then as a group, which is really good. It's sort of like what you're talking about. There's 1,000 ways to do things, and there's 1,000 different types of restaurants and things like that, and it's good to have that different energy.
There's not one way to do it, and we have always been very close. We have another brother, Josh, as well. And the three of us have always been three, peas in a pod. We're very lucky that way. We just have very strong relationships, and we've always looked after each other, in all the ways you'd want to. And Jeremy and I have had like 3 yelling, screaming fights which we haven't done in 50 years together. And it's, it's when we go back and kind of talk about it and process it, it is, the stress of this industry and the stress of these times. And I think because we're so close, we feel some measure of okayness with taking it out on each other. But I, having been in mental health field for so long, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe we've stooped to these levels of communication. And then I finished Anthony Bourdain's, Kitchen Confidential book, where they were throwing knives at each other and cursing, and and I thought, oh, we're fine. It really comforted me. Like, yes, we're in the club. We're becoming dysfunctional and falling apart at the seams on an occasional given day, and that just makes us like everybody else. So if we almost didn't have these, problem areas, I would think we're doing something wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In a normal sense, it is kind of funny in restaurant world, and having only kind of vaguely been in that, from the wait staff side and all that, it does seem like the things that are normal outside of that world, like the restaurant would be considered a case study in terms of that. But in restaurant world, it's like, oh no, this is how you become successful. Like, really? This is how it works. Okay.
It's so true. And, we have a lot of just amazing friends and family that have supported us along the way. We have friends that have worked for free, people with really good, industry skills that have helped us. Our 80-year-old dad will come in and wash dishes. I mean, it's really like a team and community effort. And we will get snippy. Our head chef, our executive chef, Beefy, is just wonderful and one of the greatest personalities and human beings you could meet. And we will go at it with each other sometimes. And we decided early on that no matter what happens while we're on the clock, we will let it pass like water under a bridge. And the rule, and I was going to say unspoken rule, but it's really spoken, is that, we hug it out at the end of the night. Because when hot pans, are flying, and I don't mean that literally, but, when tension is high and things are really kind of stressful, we can get short and snippy and defensive and triggered. And when you have 15 people working together in a high stress environment, the best of intentions aren't enough to keep you afloat sometimes. And so we'll get short with each other and we will bark at each other. But every night, when we leave that restaurant, there's always a hugging out, whether it's just verbally or physically, but we just kind of go, sorry, man, that was, I just was stressed, and people smile and say, I get it. And I love that part. It's the redeeming, the redeeming close at the end of the night. And, every night when I leave that restaurant, if I'm the last one there, the back door has the master switch where all the lights go off in the restaurant. And I always look back in across the expanse of the dark restaurant to make sure that there are no lights left on. And when I'm satisfied that it's dark as it should be, I always say, good night, Bueno. And I say it just like that. And I sometimes even blow a little kiss, because it did all the things for us. It protected us from each other, from the scary outside world. It took the good, bad, and ugly, and it put us through another day, and it's awesome. It's a little ritual.
It's like poetry. It's like poetry.
Yeah. It after a while, it becomes its own thing, its own personality, its own character in the story.
It does.
Which actually leads me to go back to Beefy, which number one,
I love that
great name for a chef.
Yeah,
I mean,
isn't it? Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
I feel a little underwhelmed with my own name when I hear cool names like that.
Beefy, I know.
But can you tell us a little bit about him maybe, and then just overall just the type of food that you have at Bueno Loco?
Yeah, absolutely. So Beefy, and his name is Sean Stanton, but he goes by the name Beefy, which, from what I understand, and I did ask him, this really doesn't have a lot to do with food, but it's more of a disc golf name. He's a disc golf player, and somewhere along his path of doing that, he was given that name, and it just stuck. And of course, it's a perfect fit for a chef.
Yes. Yes.
And he is a meat guy. Absolutely. And he, from the way I understand the story, he kind of heard about us. Bueno Loco was under new ownership, and we were kind of adding some new things to the restaurant. And breathing some new life into it and changing some things up. And he had worked for several years at Terra Lingua in Portland, and they were under renovations for their new building and, weren't ready to bring their staff back yet. And so he was kind of itching, I think, to get back into the kitchen. And so he kind of, I feel like he secret shopped us, and he sat at our bar. I didn't know who he was. And it's an open kitchen in Bueno Loco. So he just kind of observed, and I think he ate some things and talked to some people. And so he kind of approached us and said, I think you have something pretty cool going on here, and I would like to talk about being a part of it. And we really needed, an executive chef. We didn't have one. We wanted to stick to a lot of the menu items that our customers know and love and come back for, but we also wanted to bring a couple of new things on board. And, with COVID, you have a COVID menu. You have fewer things, you kind of got to pare things down and go with basics. And so he really helped us do that. And he came on board this summer, and, he's just been fantastic. He's very creative. He's, awesome. One of his personalities where the minute he can get out of that kitchen and walk around and talk to customers, it's one of his favorite things to do, and they just love it.
Oh, good.
He's very approachable. He's funny. He's got such a great sense of humor. So he's just got a lot. He's like a doctor with a terrific bedside manner. A surgeon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what are some? I did want to ask because I love food, so I have to get to this question.
And it's getting towards lunch.
I'm so hungry.
Yeah.
So I'm so hungry.
Why do we always do the interviews at the restaurants before lunch? We need to start doing this afterwards.
I know. So tell us about the food. What are some of the specialties? Like, what are some of the things that are popular there, and what are some of your specialties? Can you walk us through a few of those?
Sure. I think we have sort of your basic Mexican fare, burritos, quesadillas, tacos. I think the thing that has set us apart is something called the birria taco. And that is a West Coast, or what started in this country. I'm excluding Mexico because I think that's its origin. I know it's its origin because I had done some Googling, but, it hit Southern California and then the West Coast, and it's been slowly coming east, like most things do. And it is called the wet taco, and it's a street taco, and it's something that is often done with goat. We use beef. You can use carnitas. You can use, any kind of meat really, but you throw cheese on a flat top, and then you dip your corn tortilla in the juice and the fat of the meat that has been slow roasted for a prolonged period of time. And then you kind of fry that corn tortilla on a flat, and then you stuff it with the shredded meat, the poblano peppers, the beans. You add some onion and, cojita cheese, and then you kind of grill it. And then it's served with a bowl of consommé, which is really the drippings and all the stew juices left over from the slow roasting.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
Right. So you get this taco that's crisp on the outside and gooey and cheesy and so packed with, just shredded, very tender meat. And then you hold your bowl of consommé and you dredge it through the stew, and you lean over to not get anything on your shirt, and you just take a big messy bite. And people love it. It's very flavorful. It's rich. It's hearty. On the heat index, it's probably about a 3 out of a 10. So it appeals to a lot of people. And they call it the wet taco. So that's been a lot of fun promoting that and getting people to try it. Beefy.
You had me at your edge.
Yeah, right. The wet taco. That
my gosh,
has been a lot of fun. Amazing. Beefy will not let it go on the to-go menu. We've done our battles, and I waved the white flag and said, okay, you win, because to come off that flat top and have it be so crispy and yet soft at the same time, that just won't travel well, right?
Yeah.
You know what happens to a grilled cheese sandwich if you wrap it up in foil and send it home, right? So same kind of thing. So he is just, he loves to play creatively like that. Our wings at Bueno Loco, you wouldn't necessarily think that a Mexican restaurant would have a chance to compete in the wing industry, but we do. I think it's probably one of the things we sell the most of. Our wings are just awesome. I don't know what these guys do. They're gluten-free too, which is very appealing.
Todd?
Yeah, it is. Our restaurant has a big following of vegan folks, dairy-free folks. We have a lot of things on our menu that cater to people with particular food interests or limitations. So we appeal to that group a lot, and we kept that going. The restaurant has always been that way. The previous owner was very good at making sure that, was a part of the menu. And we just carried that forth because people have been so loyal to us about that. So I think we do a great job offering some very unique vegan fare, vegetarian fare, and that's been pretty successful for us. What Beefy does to an enchilada is just beyond me, but I've never thought I would use the word bright to describe an enchilada, but this just nails it. They are fantastic. They are so good. I watch people in the restaurant take a bite and then put their fork down and just stare with their eyes wide and look down at their plate. I've never thrown away an enchilada at that restaurant. People will either take what they couldn't finish home, or they eat every bite. It's kind of fun to see that,
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they have good food. They do a good job. And of course, our goal going forward is that we wanted to, introduce a little bit more of a fusion type menu where I'm interested in, some of the Caribbean entities, Cuban foods. I'd love to kind of mix it up a little bit, still have some of the classic favorites that people love, but to introduce, some more entree style things and have it be, not just Mexican, but I don't know. It's an idea we think about, but of course you just think about these things, just like how Bueno started it. You have your vision and you have your goal and you just keep an eye on it. And eventually you start taking steps towards it. And now with COVID, we're not, obviously actively pursuing any of that, but I still have that little vision board in my mind, of what it could be.
Yeah, that's great.
And that helps, when you're struggling to get by. It helps. We have not been eligible for a single PPE, no loans, no grants, because we purchased the restaurants, during the pandemic. We don't have last year's tax statements, tax returns to offer. So we've been ineligible, which is unfortunate, because we do have 24 employees that we're trying to keep, on the payroll. And of course, we've had to reduce that as the numbers change and COVID numbers change. But I am really impressed that we've managed to keep ourselves in the game.
Absolutely. You need to you really need to pat yourself on the back for that. You really, really do. And it's an inspiration. And I think just even people listening to this, I got chills when you were telling me about, just what that book that you read and how, to people taking those steps, those risks. And so it's very inspiring to see where you guys, how you started and where you're at. And so that really it leads me to my next question is, what inspires you? Who or what inspires you?
I think what inspires me is that I have everything I need to be successful. And I find what gets in my way is fear. I'm not good enough. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not connected enough, whatever your barriers might be. What sabotages a dream or a goal? And it's often the things that we think we can't do. And I keep looking at this entire experience. And during my darkest days and the moments where I'm shaking in the shower with fear, like, are we going to be able to do this? I have to talk to myself and say, Gregin, you have every skill you need to make this successful. And I take comfort in knowing that if for some reason Bueno Loco doesn't succeed, it's never going to be because we mismanaged or we didn't have what it took or that we didn't work hard enough. It'll be that we are a casualty of COVID. But even knowing that, I'm still determined to just make it through. I keep telling everybody, all I need is a pulse. I don't need anything more than that. All of our bills are paid. We don't owe anybody. None of our vendors are owed anything. Our utilities are paid. I just need to keep the pulse going. Jerermy and I work to just keep it alive because COVID will pass, and the pendulum will swing the other way. When and how, I don't know. Nobody knows, but I have confidence and faith that, the tides will turn. Yep. My brother Jerermy loves to say, and I've kind of stolen it from him, but his analogy in a lot of things is that a rising tide lifts all boats. And I just love that because our employees have been so so great to us. I mean, and so great to that restaurant. When your employees walk on the door and they haven't been there for 2 days because they were off, and they said, "Oh, I missed being here." We didn't have any turnover in the front of the house, like zero turnover. People just they really believe in this restaurant, and they believe, what the customers tell us, that they love what we're doing. They love the energy. They love the changes. They love the future. It's becoming their hometown spot, and people that had gone away from it for a couple of years are coming back. So that is what inspires me, knowing that we have changed a lot of people's minds about something, that needed a little lifeblood, brought to it.
You guys have brought community, it sounds like. It sounds like you guys really have this amazing community there.
Yeah, we really do. And to know that so many people are still at home and not coming in, I feel like they're curious and they've heard good things. I make a point to talk to as many customers as I can every night. And I'll say the same thing, what brought you in tonight? And people either say, it was your social media posting, or, I heard from somebody that, this is, this is great. This is a lot of fun. You've done a good job. So building curiosity is really, critical. It's what that's what I can do during COVID, is to keep building curiosity and keep ourselves in the line of people's vision. Because when this is all over, I want to be there. Jeremy and I want this restaurant to be there. We want, that vision board to be hung on our walls and say, this is what enables us to push through this, because this is, it's very scary out there. It's very depressing. And I say that for all small businesses. It's not just restaurants. I mean, I'm in a plaza on Route 1 in Falmouth with boutiques, and small gift shops and all kinds of industry around us. And I look at all their storefronts too, and my heart just aches for all of us, because it takes people supporting people. That's the magic formula, which isn't, it's not complicated. And I just keep thinking of ways to keep that energy going and to make sure people know that we're there. And support comes in a lot of ways.
It's great.
We partnered with the Falmouth Food Pantry this holiday, and hoping that, gets people to support community, and the restaurant at the same time. So it's thinking outside the box in ways you didn't expect to.
Absolutely.
Well, Gregin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us and to share your story. It's been inspiring for us, and it's been great to hear from you and to hear just how unique Bueno Loco is. And I'll make sure that I have all of your social media and web links and phone number in the show notes, so that people can place a takeout order or stop by, whatever they're most comfortable with. Thank you so much again, just for sharing this, and for also just for fostering that sense of community at your restaurant, and also in Falmouth as well. And we just wish you continued success.
Yes, we wish you the best of success.